The humans' power generation was just the beginning of their capabilities. They also knew how to amplify sound waves by placing them inside conch shells and used massive power to drive machines without any physical connection to them. Their computers contained no physical moving parts and relied on tiny switches that somehow allowed them to store massive amounts of data. They also showed us the metal they used to build their ships. It was called titanium, and it was very similar to the durasteel we use ourselves. Of course, they had learned this from us because the humans do not have the ability to create alloys on their own yet. But what we lacked in mining technology, they more than made up for with biological innovations. I was most surprised when the humans showed us their desalination techniques. The salty water of the ocean was treated by combining acids and alkalis, resulting in the creation of drinkable fresh water. Byproducts of this process were then returned to the sea without harm. The humans showed us what they could do with processed seawater. In their facilities, they converted it to breathable oxygen and fed the remaining compounds back into their soil. Most impressive of all, however, was their ability to synthesize amino acids from inorganic matter. This, they claimed, was their greatest achievement. If the Rozab are known for anything, it is our ability to alter the properties of living creatures. We are particularly adept at creating plants that resist radiation and hostile environments. Yet this human accomplishment was the most useful of any genetic engineering I have ever seen. Without this technique, life in the vacuum of space would be impossible. We can only assume that this is how the humans managed to adapt themselves to space travel, and we are still using their methods to this day. The humans also shared their food manufacturing systems with us. These facilities use hundreds of different ingredients and cooking processes to create an unending variety of flavors and textures. We have analyzed many of their dishes, but I am unable to describe most of them. I can tell you that today I ate one called a hamburger. It tasted like a cross between compressed sugar and spiced blood sausage, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. Even though the humans were unable to join the Empire, the Rozab found a lot of value in the relationship. We purchased the right to mine several metals and minerals on their world for millions of galactic credits. We also purchased samples of their synthetic amino acids. And finally, we purchased rights to their vast stores of literature. With the contacts established, I continued on with my duties aboard the embassy vessel. I cannot say that I was surprised that the humans did not wish to join the Galactic Empire, but I was surprised by their determination. These tiny beings seemed to be completely willing to wage war against anyone who tried to take advantage of them. But as far as I can tell, their stubborn streak seems to be more of a product of their unique culture than their actual strength. When I left the human planet, I took a piece of machinery with me. I didn't want to take anything that hadn't been traded for, so I brought a cheap handheld computer. It was well worn, but I felt it to be useful. If nothing else, it had made it through 100 years of space travel without being damaged. Also, this was the one machine that I could understand. Since then, I have purchased 6 more devices. I have been slowly deciphering their interface, and I am now able to look at pictures stored on the machines. Now I have one image that I would like to share with you. It is not a pretty picture. One of my companions once described humans as an animal with monkey brains and angel wings. I did not understand what he meant until I looked at the photograph. It is a view of the sky as seen from the surface of the human's home planet. There are probably more than 100 billion stars visible to the naked eye in this view, and the humans were able to capture this image with a simple device. They have a habit of naming things after animals. So this machine is called a telescope. I am trying to teach myself how to use this thing, and with a bit of luck, I will soon be able to view the constellations of the human's home system. I will let you know what I discover next week. Hello, friends. If you remember, last week I was trying to decipher the images stored on one of the humans' handheld computers. I am happy to report that I have now been successful in unlocking most of the functions. I have already spent many hours viewing images, and I am starting to learn the names of many objects and places important to the humans. Now I would like to show you a few pictures from this device. I am afraid that I might have accidentally deleted some of them while learning to navigate the menus, but I am showing you everything that I could find. As I mentioned last week, the human lives near a binary star system. The main star is slightly larger than the sun that we know, but its companion is smaller and dimmer. This image shows both stars in all their glory. I have been told that the bright point of light below them is their home world. I don't know why they would name their world Earth. To me, it looks more like water world. I tried to look up the word in their dictionary, but it wasn't listed. However, the word ocean was defined as vast body of salt water. Perhaps this is the reason for the name. The humans seem to be fond of naming things after animals, so perhaps this view reminded them of some creature swimming through the water. The second photograph I would like to show you is this view of a forest. I am told that these tall, thin trees are called redwoods. I have never seen a plant that grows in this way. I would like to study one someday. Another interesting photo I found was this one. I believe this is one of the humans' home cities. Notice how they build their homes close together. It is as if they fear being alone. I suppose that this is natural for a pack creature, but I don't think that they are worried about a lack of companionship. I think they simply enjoy working together. Finally, I would like to show you this image. I believe this is supposed to be a human, but I don't understand what they find so funny. I wish that I could ask them why they are doing this. You may remember that last week I spoke about the human's ability to use tools. Today I would like to expand on that subject. I have been able to observe the humans performing a number of tasks. I have spoken with several humans, and they have explained to me the purpose behind many of their activities. I'm not sure if I fully understand some of them, but I will share what I have learned with you. As you can imagine, I was shocked by their transportation technology. There are several types of vehicles that they use, but the largest is called a spaceship. It is powered by nuclear reactions and is capable of traveling to other planets in their solar system. They use their ships for everything from transporting goods to waging war. I have observed spaceships launch into orbit from the ground. This is quite an impressive feat. I have also ridden in one of their shuttles and visited another of their worlds. It is called Moon. This is a satellite that orbits their home world. I was fascinated by this object. For one, the humans had chosen to settle it despite its lack of atmosphere. It is also a world without gravity. The humans use the moon as a base for some of their weapon tests. I watched one of these tests and was impressed by the power of their weapons. The humans claim to be a peaceful people, but I am not sure that this is true. I believe they would be perfectly willing to destroy the entire galaxy if it meant protecting their world. That being said, they do have many good uses for their technology. I have observed them sending probes into outer space to gather information. They also use their telescopes to study the stars, and they have sent satellites into orbit around the moon and Earth to monitor weather patterns. I have also seen the humans use their technology to communicate with each other. They have towers that reach high above their cities. These towers allow the humans to send messages across their world in a matter of seconds. I am not sure how they do this, but it is clearly a very advanced technology. I have heard the humans refer to their communication network as Internet. My friends, I hope that you have enjoyed my reports from the human world. I find them to be an endlessly fascinating species. I wish that we could join them in the galactic empire, but I am glad that they have chosen to remain independent. I think they are strong enough to defend themselves, and their knowledge of technology is far greater than any other species in the galaxy. Thank you for listening to my report. I will return next week with more news from the Empire. Until then, keep an eye on the skies. Worse of all, the process was very confusing for us. The humans said that members of their species had to spend many soul years in a school to learn how to manage a nuclear plant. They almost claimed that building such plants safely required cultural knowledge passed down from ancient generations. They dared us to try, but warned that without experiential knowledge, great disaster could await us. We would have to treat them as equals, an independent, single-star empire, in order to get access to the energy type. When we brought the message back to the Emperor, Ambassador Ushiaks-G tried to sell it as a good deal. We would get access to this new amazing energy, all in exchange for not taking just 2 planets. The Emperor was furious with us. They had almost the entire staff removed. It was a controversial decision that some said led to the assassination a few Ra's years later. Eventually, the deal was accepted by the new Emperor. Little did we know that these petite creatures were turning around and making similar deals with the other 3 empires. Even more surprising was the start of their expansion. It was slow at first, but exponential. Unlike us, they didn't seem to care much if a world had harbored life. They took the deadless and the deadliest worlds alike and turned them into air-conditioned paradises. When a planet was too small, they would gloat about how high they could jump. When a planet was too large, they would genetically engineer their bones to be stronger, too close to a star, thicker skin to protect from radiation, too far, hairier bodies and more robust artificial heating systems. Their ability to bend both matter and genome to their will was almost magical to us. Within a few Sol decades, they had wiggled their way around the 50 largest empires in the galaxy. They were recognized as independent by nearly all of them. Some empires saw revolutions due partially to the now uselessly tight grip of their central planets that no longer had finite resources to haggle over, and partially due to the near-limitless human spirit of freedom on display throughout the Milky Way. We even had begun to call the galaxy by that silly human name. One empire remained dead set in their determination to crush the humans, though. The Malums were a fierce and militaristic species. They would not take that same deal that we Rozab took all those many Ra's years ago. The Malums plainly refused to even meet with the human ambassadors, so my species was chosen as an intermediary. On the morning I was set to leave for the Malum Empire, I met with a human in one of their many space stations around my home world. I was surprised to learn that it was Dr. Encoloso, granddaughter of that first human I had talked to at first contact. After working out some of the kinks in the negotiations, I tried out one of the human phrases I had begun to pick up. Dr. Encoloso, I wanted to ask if you had any tricks up your sleeve. Did I say that right? Yes, you did, she smiled at me. But I don't think we do. She was silent in thought for a moment, then, but this does remind me of a time from human history. Have you been studying that as well? I have. But I am just now coming up upon the Trojan War. Please do not tell me you want to fly a horse-shaped ship into the Malum Empire. She laughed. No, I'm thinking of something a bit more recent than that. My grandfather mentioned a time when humans used our amazing energy source not for good, but for evil. He told me that his great-grandfather had been alive when humans used this terrible weapon on each other. One group of humans ruthlessly obliterated 2 whole cities. I was a bit dumbfounded. Was this a bluff by the humans? A last fated attempt to avoid war by a species too cowardly to have a military? Do you have proof of this explosion? You should skip ahead a bit in human history to something called the Cold War. It was a time where many humans feared these kinds of attacks. Assuming you are telling the truth, do you humans still have these nuclear bombs? No, of course not. We got rid of all of them 15 solar years before you bunch showed up. At least I think so anyways. Who's to say, really? There may be some laying around Nebraska or Saratov collecting dust. With that, I got on my ship and headed towards the other side of the galaxy. Even powered by the supernatural human energy, the trip would take several days. In that time, I learned all I could about the human Cold War. When I arrived at my destination, I showed the evidence to the Malums. They quickly decided that even a Cold War was too risky for them to threaten the humans, and within hours agreed to accept their independence.